Hey guys, we're in Santa Barbara. I'm hanging out with the founder of Amego, Virginia Block.
Hey guys.
And we've got the bikes hooked up on the rack. We took the batteries off first so it'd be lightweight, easy to load. And you'll notice that the Freedom, the folding one that we're looking at, it's actually the one that's furthest back. So you try to put the heavier bikes towards the car and, sort of work your way back. And this is the Amego Freedom. It's the folding electric bike in the line. Only one size, but pretty adjustable. I was experimenting earlier with you on like the seat post and the steering tube stem thing. It actually goes up and down. I'll get into that in a second. I like that this bike comes in several colors. So you got like the matte black we're looking at here. There's the rose gold, which is beautiful and a little bit more feminine. It's been popular, right?
Unbelievably popular.
And then what's the other one? There's one more.
Brushed aluminum.
Brushed aluminum. I like the brushed aluminum because it's like, it kind of matches the spokes. This has silver spokes. Also, the stanchion, so those are steel stanchions, a cheaper fork here. There's really no adjustment, no preload, no lockout, no compression, but it softens up the ride along with these Schwalbe Balloon Big Apple tires. Nice upright body position, and then if you had that silver model, I just feel like from the side you would be even more visible. But I love that these tires also have reflective sidewall stripes built in and that you have these lights. The lights are not integrated, so you have to, batteries are in there. I think there's like maybe a AAA in that one, and you have to press this button every time you want to ride. It's not like the brightest or fanciest light, but it keeps you somewhat visible. And then the arch, see how the suspension fork, there's an arch here, that kind of goes up and down. So if you're on bumpy terrain, the light might be bouncing up and down a little bit too. It's nicer when it's mounted to the stem or the handlebars up higher, especially since this is a lower bike. But, again, it gets the job done. And then in the back, we have another independent light, the on-off switch. I'd actually turned them on for some of the photos and forgot about it because I was getting ready to do some other review stuff. And Virginia was like, oh, don't forget the lights. So I'm telling you guys, too, don't forget those lights. It's nice to have them working when it's late and you're ready to go home. But there's also a huge reflector built in, and it's tucked in there. If you did have like a trunk bag or something on this rack, it wouldn't block the light for the most part, unless it's really hanging out towards the end. You could hang some panniers on here, and it looks like there's a slot for a bungee cord, so you could get one of those to strap some stuff down. And then the fenders make this really utilitarian. They're alloy, they're fairly wide, and they've got the rubber flaps at the bottom. I love that because on the front, sometimes if you're steering or you're going over a curb, it can get a little bit bumped, and that way it won't get scratched up. Again, aluminum alloy, not going to get rusted up. And we've got a chain guide right here, plastic, a little bit more fragile, but it should keep your pants, your dress and stuff from getting greasy and snagged on that chain. Really big 52 tooth chain ring on this, and the larger chain ring helps to balance out the smaller wheel diameter, okay? Because otherwise you're pedaling super fast because this wheel is rotating more times for the same amount of distance as you'd be riding on like a full-size wheel. So they've done this right. The pedal cadence feels good. And then we've got a 7-speed cassette in the rear, really cheap and basic. This is Shimano tourney, entry-level stuff, 14 to 28 tooth. Nice to have any gears though. And they've got this nice steel derailleur guard that keeps the bike in decent shape. If it does tip or if you're parked at a rack or something, it's gonna keep that derailleur from getting bumped. And again, it's steel. This is a heavier part. It might require more tune-ups. But then there's the motor cable as well coming out of the hub motor. And that can be a bit exposed. It can get bumped or bent, and so it's nice to have that guard just protecting that whole area. I feel like that's really nice to see. And, I'm not trying to beat your bike up here or anything, Virginia, but we were talking about the price point. It's like $13.49. Does that sound right? That's pretty affordable.
Yeah, so we really work to try to make it try to make sure it's as reliable, functioning, but then at the lowest price point we could.
Yeah, because it's in some ways it's like, well, people will get a folding bike, maybe take it on vacation or something, and it's like, how much are you using it? On the other hand, some people get it because they live in like a loft or something, don't have a lot of space. So it's like you want the gears, you want to make it utilitarian, but you also want to keep it cheap. And Amego does have a 1-year comprehensive warranty. You sell these through your shop or online, and it's like free shipping.
Yeah, free shipping across North America.
That's pretty fantastic. And I've called this out for some of your other bikes, but you're based in Toronto. You've been operating since 2010. How long have you had the folding bikes?
We've been selling folding bikes since 2012. This is probably our 8th edition, so
Wow.
we really know the parts, what to look for, and yeah, that's the great thing about selling for so long.
The derailleur guard thing I was talking about, is that one of the upgrades you made because you'd seen that getting bumped, or what are some of the changes?
We didn't have that many problems, but the telescopic stem, this is something we've changed a lot, where we had some that were steel, where you couldn't adjust. A lot of people really want to have your hands up higher, and the nice low step through.
That's true. Very approachable.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was dating a woman years ago. We took some electric bikes to the beach, and this joint here was up higher. And she kept hitting her knee and her thigh and was getting all bruised up, and she was really bummed out. So I like where the position is here. I also appreciate that telescoping, like, steering tube stem. Will you go ahead and open that real quick?
Yeah.
So check this out, guys. It can go down like this. If you're someone who's a little shorter, you can lower the saddle and stuff, or it can go up. But keep an eye on those wires. Okay, if you go too high and then you turn, it can actually pull and stretch them, and it's just, you want to be careful. There's also a minimum insertion height stamp there, so it's nice to have, but just use it appropriately. And then back here on the seat post, if we open that up, you know, you can really look at this thing. I'm going to step back and get another. Will you go ahead and stand over it real quick, Virginia? Because, you know, she has a skirt on and everything, and there's plenty of room there. She can have both feet on the ground when she mounts the bike. She can reach the handlebars. That's, you know, yeah, I can see how the rose gold one would be popular, both in terms of fit and also approachability. Go ahead and step back off here. It looks like a basic Pro Max suspension seat post here, and that's going to give you some comfort as you're going over bumps, along with the Big Apple tires. So, you know, the balloon tires, they give you a little bit more volume because they're wider. This has a 35 to 70 PSI rating, so you can drop the pressure, especially because you've got motor support. But when you do that, you don't get quite as much efficiency. So I just feel like the tires offer a lot. 20 by 2 inches, the reflective sidewalls, they've got active line K-guard puncture protection, because again, if you do get a flat, a lot of times it's in the rear, or there's a lot of weight there with the fenders, the rack, and then, you know, your body weight tends to go towards the rear. And then getting that off, you're going to need some tools because it has just nuts. There's quick release up on the front, standard like 9mm skewer, but on the rear there's these nuts, and you know, it just takes a little bit more effort, but they do have a quick disconnect for the power cable. That's just how it goes with these hub motor bikes. This is not any different than most of the other bikes I've seen. Just keep that in mind. And I guess it's a little bit cleaner here because we have these Pro Max linear pull brakes compared to disc brakes. You actually get a good mechanical advantage, and you see the machine sidewall, but over time with snow and everything, that can kind of squeak or kind of rubs the grit into your wheel compared to disc brakes. And we can see, you know, again here on the front, linear pull brake compared to disc brakes, these are a lot easier to actuate. You don't require as much hand strength as these 4-finger, and that's why they're 4-finger brake levers, but at least they're rubberized, and they do have a motor inhibitor in the left brake lever. It sounds like they might add it to both, but that's great as an override because there's a trigger throttle here, and if you bump the throttle or you've got the cadence sensing pedal assist going on, it's nice to override that, just like, I need to stop, and then the motor, you're not fighting the motor. This is a 350 watt internally geared Bafang hub motor. It offers up to 60 newton meters of torque. It's spoked in with thicker 12 gauge spokes, and then the smaller wheels tend to be very strong. There's actually 36 spokes on this, so it's, you know, it's a sturdy build. But the smaller wheels, they bring the whole bike down close to the ground. They make it more compact when you fold it, but they don't have the lower attack angle. So when you go over bumps and cracks, you feel it more on a bike like this. So I do love the suspension fork, even though it's not adjustable. I love the gel saddle, even though there's only 40mm of travel on the suspension post. I love that too. And then the geometry and the ergonomic grips and stuff. These grips, also cheap. They spin if you really bear down, but that's probably not going to be an issue for, you know, most. You're not mountain biking with this thing, and you've got the grip shifter, which is a little bit easier to sort of understand and use if you're not from the cycling world, like mountain biking all the time. So it's approachable is what I'm saying. There's a bell, love that. There's just a lot going on here. And the utility of the rack, there's also spring latch, and this is rated at 25 kilograms, which is 55 pounds. It's a very capable rack. You can do panniers, but make sure you don't get panniers that are too long, or they might hang down and, you know, kind of overlap your derailleur. But back to that guard, like that's going to keep the panniers from actually getting in the way here. I just feel like there's, all this works. Like, they have refined it pretty well. One thing that does bother me, and I've complained about this on some other bikes in the past, is you have to leave the keys in. You can't pull them out. This is like the on-off switch. So every time you want to ride, you have to turn it on. It means that no one can tamper with the bike if you're leaving it at a bike rack or something, because you've taken the keys with you, hopefully. But when you're riding, this is going to bounce around a little bit, bump the frame, a little bit more noise, or if you have a skirt, you don't want to get that snagged. So you could take the keychain off. Imagine if you have a whole keychain of keys here, but then if you don't have a keychain or a leash, it's just a key floating around. You don't want to lose that. Here's the charging port, easy to reach, not in the way of the crank arms. This bike does not have a USB charging port like some of the other Amego bikes. We've got the Elevate over there, and they've got the Infinite. It just means that you're not going to be able to like charge your phone or other things on the go. But I don't know how long you'd be, this is not a long distance bike, for me at least, because of the comfort thing. It's more of a get around, it's accessible, it's approachable. Those are some of the things that come to mind for me. And then the saddle's connected with this cool flip up feature. So you can bring it out of the way. You don't have to take the seat post out every time, right? You just flip it up like this. You do have to unlock the battery, and there's sort of this push in and then all the way to unlock. And when we were doing that, see that metal pin there? I'm gonna do this one more time. It really locks in there pretty well. And I've seen some of these batteries before where there's the 4 pins, and sometimes the slides just aren't as long as this. They're not as sturdy, and you get some cracking at the bottom, and I just feel like this one's been refined a little bit more. Virginia and her team have scrutinized it. I haven't ridden this bike a whole lot. I just get the brand new first look kind of experience, but I hope this gives you guys some good feedback. And I welcome you, if you have an Amego bike or some other bike, to chime in. I've got the forums and the comments. Share your thoughts if you've actually used this product and gotten some feedback on how it works. So we've turned it on all the way, locked the saddle down. We head up here to the display panel. It's my favorite part. We get to hold down that power button for a second. There we go, boots right up. There's a little power meter chart above the battery, and we might be able to see that if I try to get the wheel going. There we go, saw it for a second. Power, that's like amps of current flowing through the system. 6 ticks on that battery bar, so it's a little bit higher resolution. A lot of times you just have 4 or 5. Speed in miles per hour right now. Assist level, it goes from 0 to 6, and it goes around. So if I arrow down from 0 up to 6, so I don't have to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It just faster. And then there's a lot of trip stats over here, like odometer. If we press set, we get timer, trip distance, max speed, that kind of stuff. And then I think if you press the power button once, this display backlights, so it's a little bit easier to see at night. And then I think we hold the minus key. Oh yeah, that's what clears the trip stats, holding the minus key, but we hold the plus key. Is it gonna do it? Yeah, there we go, walk mode, baby. This bike does weigh like 51.4 pounds, so this is still a little bit heavier. For a folding bike, it looks cute and compact, but the fenders, the rack, the bigger battery, like 48 volt, 10 amp hours, you're getting pretty good capacity on this. And the 48 volts, it feels zippier. Actually, in the lowest level of assist 1, it's a cadence sensor. It's on off signal. There's no torque sensing. It's not about how hard you push, and that could be nice if you have sensitive knees, but it feels a little too zippy. Like the first level is sort of like brrr, and Virginia said they're working on that. The trigger throttle is variable speed though, so you can just push that gently and you'll get a little bit less power, which is nice. So coming back up to the display panel, I think also if you hold set, it opens up all the different settings and stuff, so we can kind of cycle through here and change from miles per hour to kilometers per hour, all that stuff. Maybe even change the top speed. It's pretty versatile that way. And for people who are concerned about the throttle, you can completely remove that if you want to and just unplug it from the display, and then this becomes a class 1 electric bike. Most of the Amego bikes, like these fancier Elevate here, the mountain bike, it can go like up to 25 miles per hour, whereas the Freedom only goes to 20. So it's just a straight up class 2 electric bike, legal in most places. You don't have to worry about riding this on a trail or anything. It does a pretty good job. And then there's the kickstand, and the kickstand is in the way. Oh, so close. I like to have the kickstands further back. Just keep that in mind if you're parked in a garage and you're backing up, because it can collide and then It just gets in the way a little bit. It's a minor gripe. And then these Well-Go pedals, they're folding, but they're the cheap ones, kind of plastic. They aren't as stiff as alloy, and you have to push in like this. I've seen some other ones that have like a little lever, and this is just the cheaper one, right? And so like Virginia said, they're trying to save money. They've picked a few places to make some compromises, but overall, it does a pretty good job. You know, the cables are externalized a little bit down here, but at least they're not going to get pinched. They're not in the tubing getting bent every time you fold it. And then there's this stand like alloy, I guess it's protecting that plastic chain guide that we were talking about earlier. So when you fold it, the bike can kind of stand there. Is that something we can do? You want to help me fold this up real quick?
So yeah, I usually just put the handlebars down first. You just lift that up. This is on sturdy for safety.
There we go.
And it just slides down nice and easily. And then it's a dual lock to remove. So you do the quick release first, and then even with that released, it's not going to lock. You have to take this and put your finger right where the spring is.
Yeah.
Lift up, you'll hear that click, and then it folds right in.
There we go.
Actually, the other good thing to do is you can fold up the pedals, put the kickstand up, and then it just folds.
There we go. You're doing great. I know it's hard to do sometimes this quickly and simply, but she's done a great job, and it looks like the light stays mostly out of the way here. Sometimes with folding bikes, you'll see magnets that try to keep it from coming unfolded, but that's sort of hit or miss. They don't always work. And then there's other times where there's like a rubber, band thing. It doesn't come with anything like that, but
a lot of our customers do buy just a strap that'll go from here and then all the way over to keep it in nice and tight.
Just a bungee cord, exactly. I was going to suggest like sometimes the plastic ones with the plastic ends so they don't scratch up the frame too. And they have adjustable length bungee cords. They're pretty cheap, and the dimensions on this they're pretty compact. That's something else that I'm going to have back at the full review. And you can see that the chain ring and the guard there, the plastic guard, just above the concrete, so they're not going to get chipped. And it's because of that little stand thing I was talking about before. The display's out of the way. This is cool. This is really cool. I would definitely take the battery. I like how the battery's still accessible. I would definitely take that off if I was lifting this up, just because you don't want to hurt your back or something if you're loading this into a car or taking it up some stairs or your RV. Virginia and I were talking about just how this thing's folded and the positioning and stuff. I was like, oh, you just lift this thing but take the battery out. And she was like, you don't have to lift it. Actually, you can wheel it along a little bit. Do you want to attempt that? Just kind of tips it back.
Tip it up.
Watch for the fender. Yep. And then
just hold on to the saddle. Just walk it.
Not bad. Yeah, you can walk that into the elevator or whatever. Makes sense. I think that's probably it. We're gonna unfold this thing and take a little ride test. Let's do it. Just a beautiful neighborhood around here. Thought it'd be fun to take a ride together. Virginia is on the Freedom, and she's on her tiptoes, right? You got the saddle raised for full leg extension, huh? Okay, I think we're just gonna do it. I'm gonna set this one up. I'm on the elevate, get some third-person shots. Go for it, Virginia. Yeah, it just zips right off. Nice. She's got the headlight all set up too. And the tail light. Can you stand up and do the suspension? There we go.
I don't think I have too much weight.
Yeah. Struggling with the suspension. I'm sure if you hit a curve hard enough, looking good. Sweet, and the seat post, it's a nice looking bike. Okay guys, from here you can see that 52 tooth chainring with a plastic guide chain. There is no slap guard on this frame, so you might end up with some chips. Sometimes you can just take that clear like boxing tape and put a strip. They do sell neoprene official like slap guards, but it's just a shorter length and there's that extra wire to deal with. So yeah, I guess it'll be interesting. Virginia was talking about how it starts a little zippy, maybe a little higher power than they want in the lowest level assist. This does have a 14 amp controller, and just with the smaller wheel size here, you get a good mechanical advantage on that hub motor, and it's a pretty big 350 watt hub motor, so I just feel like must just give you a lot of power. I'm going to start in level 1. You can get an idea for how that zippy feel might look. there's always the throttle. You can always ease into it with the throttle or start in 0. And I like that the throttle is active all the time, so you can start from stop, but just be careful not to bump it. I mean, this bike, it's kind of always hot. There's a little bit of extra, it's a little more advanced in that sense. Here we go. I don't know, it didn't feel terrible to me. You know, you definitely hit like a top speed for a second and then it just sort of fades out. And that's level 1. So now I'm going to go to level 6, which is the highest. Nice. We hit our 20 mile per hour, 32 kilometer per hour pretty easily there. I definitely appreciate that it stops very quickly when I stop pedaling. Starting, there's a little bit of a delay with the cadence sensor, but then stopping, it's quick, and you have that motor inhibitor on the left brake lever. So anytime you pull that brake, you know, all the power is cut, and so it feels pretty safe. It's well thought out. Okay guys, from here you should be able to see just where we're going, riding along, maybe even a little bit of suspension action going on. I'm definitely appreciating the seat post suspension, add a little bit of comfort. Step-through frames like this, especially single tube, there's usually a little bit of frame flex, and I did feel that when I really shook the bike, but with the mid-mounted battery, you free up the rack. It's pretty balanced, it works pretty well, and that suspension fork's a little bouncy. It's tight enough, like on the stem and everything, but it's, you know, this is just not as rigid or high performance as like the full-size bikes that Amego offers. They have like a step-through called the Infinite, also comes in high step. But it's just so compact and approachable, you know? And I've been doing some test rides, and I just want to call out again that you do have to reach a little bit to get to that throttle. You reach across the window. It's nice to have that. I like the grip shifter. It's tough. I've seen this mounted on the other side. The display's set in a little bit, and then it pushes up. It's nice that you have some options, but I just want to call that out if you're, you know, the trade-off would be a twist throttle, but then you couldn't have the grip shifter, and sometimes those get bumped a little more easily. So this is a trade-off I see a lot. It's not a huge deal, but it's something that you know, it's a compromise when you've got gears, you know, but it's nice to have the gears for climbing too. Hey guys, we're back at the shop. This is E-Bike ZZZ of Santa Barbara. Really awesome store. I was just floored. I love to surf, so got some cool, just the aesthetics and the wood roof and everything. And you know, here's our other Amego. This is the Elevate, the mountain bike, and then we had a couple colors on the Freedom. So I just wanted to show you, you know, there's the black one, really nice, and then the brushed aluminum. It's neat to have so much variety, a lot of mountain bikes in here. Oh, and then there's the Infinite. It's like the step-through, and that's it. Yeah, there we go. There's the rose gold color that I was talking about. Scott's been helping us out today. Just a lot of fun. If you're in town, definitely check this shop out. Just a beautiful location here.